Daith da, ewi nacha. Welcome to podcast number 34. Well, it's been another short week this week with the bank holiday on Monday for the King's coronation. So I can't believe 'tis Thursday again already. But the weekend, well, 'twas sandwiched really with last Friday, since I spoke to you on the Thursday, and the Tuesday, either side of the long weekend, were trips down to Padstow again for funerals. And what a difference in the weather for both of them. 'Twasn't too bad at all end of last week, but crumbs, when we was down there on Tuesday, we was streaming leaking. 'Twas pouring down with rain, pouring down. And you just think back now how lucky everyone was down there to have such good weather for May Day this year. As usual on a Saturday morning, I usually do me paperwork, so I did have the coronation on in the background as I was working away, and then the main event of the weekend was heading down to Redruth in the afternoon for the first round of the County Championship of the rugby. So for those of you that don't know, if you're not from round here in Cornwall, rugby is, it's always been very popular down here, and the actual Cornwall Rugby Football Union was founded back in 1883, so that's 140 years ago now. Over the years, Cornwall have been fairly successful really in the county championship, which I think perhaps is a bit unfair really, because they call it county, but lots of us think of Cornwall as a duchy, and lots of us think of Cornwall as a country. So perhaps we should really be playing, in the Six Nations, or would make Seven Nations sort of thing. So, but there we are at the minute. We still in the county championship, and I think the first year we actually won it was back in 1908. And back then, I think the final, if I'm right, was actually played down Redruth in front. Well, I'm sure it was over 17,000 fans, I think, was down there, and it was against Durham, and Cornwall won 17-3. Also, an added incentive that year was that the winner would then represent Great Britain in the Olympics, which Cornwall went on to do, and they ended up with the silver medal. Over the following decades then, Cornwall reached the finals, must have been 5 or 6 times, I think, but it wasn't until 1991 that they actually reclaimed the championship, and what a match that was. I expect a lot of you can still remember it. 'Twas against Yorkshire, up at Twickenham, and there was over 50,000 fans there. I think it was about 54,000 fans, and most of them was Cornish. Black and gold was everywhere. And I know Cornwall was trailing. They were 16-3 down, but then they got back and drew level at 16-all at full time. And of course, then it went into extra time. And from then on, the game just went Cornwall's way, and Cornwall ended up winning 29-20. And what a fantastic day that was. Absolutely brilliant. And I know Cornwall got in the final game. We went up 1992 and 98, but lost both of they. And until 1999 against Gloucester that Cornwall managed to win it again. We lost in the final again in 2001. But then after that, crikey, what a run we had. I think it was from 2013 to 2019, we got in 6 finals, and we did win 4 of they. And then, of course, last year, up there again in the final, and we beat Cheshire. So we've had some fantastic days away. Absolutely brilliant. Our own games are usually played Redruth or Camborne. And then if we do get up to the final, sometimes I've driven up, and other times we've gone up on the bus. And times like back in the earlier days, usually JT would arrange things. You'd meet in Allen's Bar about 6 o'clock in the morning. And then from then on, the rest of the day, you was kind of, you wouldn't sober really. Sometimes you'd almost be thinking, I'm sobering up now. And then there'd be another bar. But I just love the build up, meeting fellow Cornishmen and singing all the Cornish songs, and just black and gold rugby shirts everywhere. And then, when you get to the match, usually, quite often, you've got the Falmouth Marine Band that are playing there, playing in inverted commas. They get perhaps the most musical band, but just adds to the atmosphere, really. And Betty Stoggs is usually there as well. And also, I know at Twickenham a few times, they've allowed a couple of our supporters to go and dangle a giant pasty over the crossbar by the goalposts there. So, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant atmosphere. And of course, we've got our old mate, Julian Wilkes from Wadebridge, heavily involved in the Cornwall team. Been a selector for quite a few years now and also as team manager. So it is always nice to see Julian when we're on our travels. We've been paid up members of Trelawney's Army since, well, I don't know when, and always like to meet up there in the cabbage patch when we're up Twickenham, and then march together till we get to the ground, and then meet up to greet the team as they come out for their photo. And then after the game, we usually try and get back to the cabbage patch again, just for a drink or two before we head home. And I know last year we saw dear old sausage there, Luke Schofield. We had a few drinks with he before we headed home. And hopefully we'll make it up there again this year. We'll have to see. But this Saturday, I know we're away at Hampshire. And then the following Saturday, we moan against Kent, which is down Camborne, which I don't think we can be able to make that one because I'm pretty sure it clashes with Mabon's County Cup final in the football. But then obviously the week after, fingers crossed, is up Twickenham. But we'll see how it goes. But I must admit, tisn't as big as it used to be. 'Tis a pity, really. I think over the years the RFU have cut the funding a bit, and I think we're lucky in Cornwall. The game down here is in such a good state and financially as well. So I'm hoping the county championship will keep going for years to come. But you just don't know. You just got to go from year to year, really. But at the moment, all is well. Whenever we go down to watch the rugby down at Redruth, we always like to go in Hellfire Corner to watch it. Always a lot of vocal support there, a lot of singing, which is brilliant. And when I was younger in the groups, I did write quite a few songs actually, but I've only ever written 2 poems. And I did put one on Facebook 12 months ago now, the other poem which I wrote, which did go down quite well. I might read that one again to you sometime. But the other poem I wrote was one about actually going down to watch a rugby. So perhaps I thought I'd read that one to you now. I have censored it a little bit because there is one swear word right at the end. I've put a kind of a gentler word in because I don't want to be censored by the podcast police sort of thing and be considered X-rated. But this is the poem that I did write about our trips down Redruth. One of life's pleasures for my boy and me is going down Redruth, kick-offs at 3, to Hellfire Corner in the middle of May, proudly watching the black and golds play. With pasty in me left hand and pint in me right, we'm singing Trelawney with all of our might. And they Falmouth Marine boys, I tell 'ee, they'm class, kilts down to their ankles as they march on past. Today we play Devon, and they think we'm fools. They'm nagging the ref, they'm bending the rules. Shouts come from behind me, from right at the back. You cheating northern buggers! I tell 'ee, we laughed. So there we go. Hope you liked it. I think 'tis alright. So, anyway, that was me Saturday afternoon. I think it took me about 10 minutes there just to tell you what happened then. Well, then Sunday I did work again, and Monday we had a funeral on Bank Holiday Monday, which is very unusual. We haven't done many on bank holidays, but so that was me weekend really. And then Tuesday was back to normal. I say we were Penmount, Glyn Valley, Padstow, and then been Glyn Valley a few other times. And today we've actually been up St Mabon again. We was lucky with the weather today, and Glyn Valley, and then Penmount, Glyn Valley tomorrow. So we spread here and there a little bit. But I thought the other thing I'd talk about tonight, we have been involved with a burial of somebody on their own land, and I thought I'd just talk a bit about that. Tin very often we do it. Normally over the years it's been perhaps farmers with a few acres, and we do the burial in one of their fields, sort of thing. We've had the odd occasion where people have been buried in their back garden, but that's not quite so common. You are only allowed to bury 2 bodies in the area. Any more than that, and is classed as a cemetery. And to have cemeteries, you need to get planner permission and that, which most likely it wouldn't be allowed anyway, sort of thing. But they are very strict. You must then have plans, draw the location, and also it must be put on the deeds that there is a body there, and also the grave must be marked. So there's all these things, that you need to do. I know with farmers and that, perhaps it's not quite such an issue, but we're cases where have been in, back gardens and that. I mean, with all the cases, we sit down and we talk to the families, and just, you got to make sure that you're 100% sure, really, because you got to think, well, how long is the property going to be in the family? And, if you have to sell the property, you then wouldn't be able to actually visit the grave. Or, would you want the body still to be left there if you're not living there anymore? So there's all these things to talk about. And also, if it was in the garden or whatever, obviously it would affect the value of the property. Perhaps if you went to sell it, and you'd have to let people know. So there are all these things to think about. I know a few years ago now we were involved with an exhumation, and we've got colleagues that I've known for a number of years now up London that helped us with this, and it was interesting talking to them at the time to say that a good portion of their work was actually, exhuming bodies from private land where families had moved, or, they'd had second thoughts. So it is something, you've got to be 100% sure of. And I think because of that, that's why we don't actually do that many burials on their own land. But I say it's something we do in and out, and 'tis another interesting, part of the profession, really. So there we go. That was really, I would say, a podcast of 2 halves. Totally different, but I thought I'd just talk a little bit about, those sort of burials, and I hope you did find it interesting. As far as me Cornish for this week, I think there's 2 I was thinking of, because I did actually say last week, when for Cornish dialect or sayings, if you was describing if somebody was really thin, and I thought perhaps for this week, if somebody was perhaps a little bit short and stocky or something, the Cornish dialect for that would be stuggy. So I was thinking perhaps that would be my word for this week, is stuggy. But also I was thinking, like with the rugby, Cornish rugby, you're always shouting "Oggy, Oggy, Oggy," and I thought, well, perhaps I'll do that. So I might give you 2 this week, 2 Cornish kind of dialect sayings. I mean, Oggy could well come from the Cornish word oggen, which is what the Cornish miners used to eat down in the mines in the 18th and 19th centuries. And they reckon, I mean, there's all different discussions, but they reckon that one of the theories is that the chant "Oggy, Oggy, Oggy" was actually shouted by the tin miners' wives down the mines, just to let the miners know that their pasties was ready or were being lowered down to them, and then the miners would shout back up, "Oi, oi, oi." So, but Oggy pasty, that's what we know it as down here. And so perhaps there we got 2 of they for this week. So there we are. So I'll love you and leave you now. Hope you have a good week, and hopefully I'll speak to you again next week. Tis the more I do of these, the more it is a bloomin' struggle of what I'm going to say. But I usually try and find something to go on about. But if any of you got anything you want me to talk about, I know earlier on we did talk about this. So if when I put it on the Works Facebook page or my Facebook page or whatever, just send me an email of a comment of perhaps anything you want me to talk about, funeral related or whatever. I've got a couple of guests up my sleeve, which I'm hoping to contact in the next week or two to get them on and talk about old times in the area, which I'm hoping you will find entertaining. But hopefully I'll keep going for another few weeks yet, because wherever I go, these do seem pretty popular. But anyway, I say I'll love you and leave you. Wish you well, have a good week, and do Guinness, and Kerno Bisfican.